Hello, how are you?
Hello, my dear. I'm very good. Changed a lot since beginning of January. So the new year has brought quite some changes, subtle changes, but changes nevertheless.
Well, what it also did was that quite early on in the year, it almost as if it just accelerated anything that you had left over and then just went whoosh like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so on an emotional level, it sort of threw you around a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Okay, look, but that was all part and part of, the process that your energies were involved in. And it was rather like, I'll call it the sediment that was left over from 2022. And
I've had this bladder infection
yep,
since the beginning of January, right? And
yep.
what something needs to be let go of. So
Yep.
what actually do I need to let go of, right?
It's not anything specific because, if you look at the way that you've been developing yourself over these years, you've looked very honestly at all the specific things that needed to be dealt with. So now what is left over is a bit like the dust in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're experiencing is, yes, it's elimination, but it's also purification.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, as you push through more and more, then, I call it the old infections of life, now start to literally move themselves out of your energy. And it's interesting about human nature because, when it realizes that, oh, well, this is it, never am I able to do this anymore, then it almost like it just throws everything at you as much as possible, to try to get a grip again. But then because your light energy is so prevalent, then that's impossible. So now, it is really, saying farewell, to everything, which makes you a big blank, really. and so when you're in that big blank space, then, and I'm just thinking about the vibration of 2023 for you, it is so much about, well, it is really and totally and absolutely up to me as this God in my woman's body. And because I've looked so honestly at myself, I don't have to work anything out anymore. I don't have to wonder why this is happening, da 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 da. And remember what I said last year about you get to a place which you have where there's no relevance for karma anymore, because you don't have that belief system ingrained within your energies now. And so, and I suppose the biggest challenge of 2023 for you is going to be stay clear, really live what you are. You don't need any more to resolve or work through or problems or issues or anything at all. It's more a matter of, really training up the physiology that you got to accept that you are God too. And you got to accept that there is no necessity for any form of disharmony, disease, distress, whatever. And excuse me. And so, I mean, I really like the place that your energies are in. And so, and it's really interesting because when I see this color in people's aura, which is quite unusual, then it represents a high receptivity, and the color is copper.
Copper.
Yes,
Okay.
this shimmery coppery energy just going through your aura. And when you're in that place, you've aligned yourself to the degree where you're able to be what I'll just call a high receptor. And so I'm just laughing now because your guides suddenly sprout all these little antennas coming out of your body like this, you see, and then it's like beep 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 beep, putting signals out and then receiving as well. And yeah, so when you're in a high receptivity place, then you're astute enough, adept enough, and qualified enough to really just get on with being God, that creator, living life. And in doing so, obviously, it's like, and I'm just seeing this, like your higher nature is doing like a real big scan of your physiology. As it does a big scan, then it's and I get this giant vacuum cleaner, like it's sucking out, the bits and the energies and stuff that isn't necessary anymore. And then get back to what I said before about being totally empty. and staying in that particular position, basically. See, because the other thing I thought, and this was really interesting about 2023, is you're developing your ability as a channel in stronger ways. Now, as you know, channeling isn't just channeling spirit entities, etc. You're channeling the source of life. And as you begin to pull more and more of that through your system, your physiology has to adapt to that. And it's sort of like it's in training, for that vibration and that energy. And so to be a clear channel, then, the word that comes to mind is acceptance, but also acceptance of roles that feel natural for you to play, but also realizations that, well, I just probably won't do that now, or think that now, or feel that now, and etc. And it's not that you're sacrificing your life to serve God, but what you're doing is that you're realizing, if I'm to increase who I am and do what I do, well, then I got to relinquish some of my human nature experiences that I've always thought, well, maybe I'll enjoy that or do that, etc. And so you begin to.
Well, what would that be? Some aspects of my human nature to relinquish?
It could be certain friendships that you realize, well, that's got no productivity to me anymore. Something maybe you thought, oh, I must get round. I really want to learn that or do that. But also what comes up quite strong is your absolute commitment to yourself. And absolute commitment to yourself, then it's a, hey, I belong to me and no one else, and whoever's in my life, it's got to fit in, with who I am, etc. And also too, what comes up and things that aren't necessary is simply roles that you realize, nah, I don't want to do that anymore, or play that role anymore, or be involved in that way anymore. And that could be a individual situation, or that could be something that you realize, well, no, that's a permanent situation, where I realize I've outgrown that particular way of thinking or feeling or involvement, etc. Simply because you've outgrown the necessity, for that involvement. So the involvement that you're creating for 2023 is a very specific involvement. And that even comes down to roles you play, and I'm thinking more as a grandmother, actually. And roles, how you have to play the roles differently. So even though you might feel you have an opinion or a perspective, you might realize from a God point, no, I can't say anything. I have to let things find their own rhythm.
Oh, that's happening more and more, I have to say. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like a grandmother. I should do this, I should do that, I should say something, but then I don't feel like it, or I seem to forget, or, and I'm learning more and more to rely on my feelings. How would it feel to act like that? How would it feel to say something like that? And if it doesn't feel good, or I just feel it would not be good if I told my kids about it, if I told my grandkids actually, and then I don't do it. And I seem to be forgetting it, but obviously I seem to be directed in that direction.
When you function in the highest way possible, such as what you're doing, then the whole dynamics of how you relate and respond to people, whether it's close or beyond, you become more conscious of what vibration you don't want to be involved in. And it really just pulls you into, oh, this is what feels natural. So in fact, that's probably a really excellent way of looking at everything. It's I've simply reached a natural place in my existence, mind, body, spirit. And therefore, having established that natural formula, then I just need to be conscious of following that through and ensuring that I don't get into any unnatural vibrations. And this is the thing about everything, if everything follows the natural rhythms, everything is in harmony. I mean, in all conflict on this planet, whatever it is, it's simply because, there's too much unnatural practices that are going on, or thought, feelings, etc. And I mean, it's natural to be God. So therefore, if you don't pay attention to that in some way, then it's going to, hurt you in some way. It's natural to be in harmony with people. It's natural, to be instinctive. It's natural to serve.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone has to do it, simply in their own way. So for you, it's natural to keep on increasing your aptitude and ability with your connection to source, because you're going to channel through more information and more healing and more perspectives, etc. And as you know, this is just flowing out of you. And
you know what I've noticed about my QHHT sessions? What was also interesting, I didn't have any clients in December, and we talked about that, but it felt kind of natural. But on the 2nd of January, people started to call in and book again, really. And I could feel that the energy had changed so much. And what I've also noticed is that the quality of the sessions has increased tremendously. There have been such tremendous healings.
Yes.
And you also said that, level 3 would be some kind of initiation for me. And I really feel that now. And it seems to be happening naturally, that really people are healing themselves of really bad diseases, really bad relationships. And that is really, I'm in awe when I watch that happening, right?
Yes, yeah. Look,
and it's amazing.
When you speak about this, what you've involved yourself with is your total alignment, and therefore with your total alignment, the word that keeps coming up is secure. So those people who are ready to really be relieved, then they sense the security of your vibration, your energy, but they're also in a position where they are so aligned to themselves now, then they are subconsciously realizing, right, it's time to let this go, etc. So therefore, the natural law of attraction brings the energy together.
Yeah.
And then you see the results.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to happen more and more, because the collective energy of soul frequency on the planet is so much higher. I said last year, humanity's turned a corner for the better.
Yeah.
Even though some people would disagree with that, but they're only looking at the conflict, and they're not looking at how many lights have been turned on.
Well, and they look at the media, what the media is telling them, and the media is focusing on negative things. But when you look around in your immediate environment, lots of things are changing.
But there's actually more positivity and more harmony than there is negativity.
Yes.
And it's like, Blair's got this friend who always sends these funny little things, and what did they send the other day? It was like this. It was like, what would happen if this super volcano erupted and like this? You see. So Blair sends back a text. Well, that gives me happy joy. Thanks for sharing. And then they sent another one yesterday, which is about the doomsday clock is now 7 minutes to midnight, the closest it's ever been. And Blair's like, well, for fuck's sake, it's like. I wonder what world they're living in, and so again, whenever you sense and see, the mass negativity and stuff, it's just, you don't pay attention to it.
No, I don't.
And not paying attention isn't turning a blind eye and not having awareness, but you're just not going to buy into it, and you're not going to invest into it.
Well, you observe it, and then you make up your mind about it, and you go away. So I don't watch any news anymore, and I don't listen to people who are, in the fear mode. I just try to, to radiate my energy and be lovely and friendly, but it's up to them how they choose to live their lives. But the more I am like that, the more I draw people into my immediate environment that are different. And that's
every time you come across something negative, whether it's a person or whatever, then it's good for you to remind yourself, oh, I'm going to be God more. Mm-hmm. So it should act as an opportunity to just challenge yourself to, right, well, if there's any moment to be God more, this is it. And so, the sifting out process, of course, is still happening. And a lot of people who are in that negativity, it's like they're just falling off the energy like this. And then there's the rest who are just standing there with all the lights on. Mm-hmm. And so now saying this is important, and this is very much where you're at this particular point. And obviously you'll create this as the months go by. but fundamentally, what I find you in is in a position where you're being a very powerful observer from your perspective. So you're now observing all of your life in every way possible from you as God. Now, in doing so, as I've said to previously, you know, it's very important to observe because it allows you to just get your bearings and orientate yourself. And so as the month of February kicks in, then what you find is you start to make quite fundamental decisions about you, you know, about the way you're structured, about the way your relationship with yourself is, about the way that you're really allowing the energy to flow through you. And when I'm talking about these decisions, these are not based on any form of human emotion or karma. This is purely based on the fact that I'm a God now with all the lights on. I'm in the purest vibration possible. I got all the power of life available to me. No excuses, no barriers. It's just there, ready for me to take. And yet I just don't go out there and grab a bit of this and a bit of that. It's about, what do I have an appetite for? What do I have a taste in life for? And then that's when you begin to consider in the energy of your present. All right, well, what decisions do I have to make about how I wish to function in this particular way? And I think the thing too that's important to remember is that every time you make a decision and a commitment to something, then straight away you move away everything that was going to be possible because you've made your decision. And then you begin to create a relationship with that particular situation. And that could be just like even with a client. And in that situation is a particular vibration. But in that vibration are many, 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 many layers of it. And in those layers of energy, there's an order that goes with that. So that's where, getting back to what I said before about being natural. So therefore, using the metaphor as a client. So you're working with a client and you realize there are many layers to the complexity of their issues. And you're channeling through a particular power, and you realize that you've now activated the need for those layers to be exposed. And so you can't go to one layer and then suddenly go to the 8th layer. You have to allow the naturalness of these layers to just fall off.
Yeah.
And then in each layer is a certain narrative, that you need to be aware of.
But you know what's sometimes funny? When I go, when we take a bathroom break, when I talk to a client and then I go to the bathroom, and sometimes something new comes in, and then I go down to the room again and say, what's just come to me while I was in the toilet is, we should look at this, we should look at that.
Yeah. And that's good, but then you have the time and the place when to look at that. So yes. It's not necessarily, I have to look at this straight away. It's rather like, okay, well, which part of that state of consciousness does that fit into? And look, this isn't just relating to your clients, this is relating to you and just the day that you're actually living, because each day has lots of different layers of experience. And in each of those layers is certain forms of guidance, ways of thinking, ways of feeling. That's why you can't have the same way of thinking and the same way of feeling all day for the whole same day. It's impossible. And so you're, and the way I like to put it is, you're understanding the God within the God within the God within the God. And as you begin to do that, then that's because you've got this absolute acceptance. Well, that's how I function and that's how I am. It's not about the layers of my human nature. It's now about the layers of my higher nature and my God nature. And think about it. Originally you went from being human in your nature to higher in your nature. And during that process, you went through all the looking at stuff and resolving, et cetera. Now, one's not needing to do that anymore. So now you're being God in your nature. And now it's always going to be, I'm just going to keep being more of God and more of God and more of God. But the dynamics of it change, and the experiences that I have changed, because it's no longer about my human nature. I've got that sorted. Now it's about my higher nature, living in the highest way possible, which is where you start accessing the energy, the experience of higher vibrations. and it begins to pull through your system. And you know, a good indicator of that is what you said before about the quality of your sessions is just becoming more evident. Well, that's because as God, you're reaching for more of that energy, and therefore you begin to quantify more of that power, and therefore the quality of that presents itself in the way it does. Well, you're right, that's going to happen even more.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a very the word that came to our thoughts was direct approach. You know, the person's going to come in the moment they go into, you're going to go like bang, da 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 da. You know, and so because that's what it's all about. It's not about shilly-shallying around and telling a pretty story. So
you know, Americans sometimes say, yeah, you know, to introduce what the session is going to be about. Today we're going to have a lot of fun, right? And I tried that once. You know, Americans, they express it a little bit differently. And I said it, okay, today we're going to have much fun with the client. And after 10 minutes, we were in the middle of the most serious issue the client had. And she said, I thought we were going to have fun today. And we're in the middle of our most serious topic.
You know, that's an interesting story because it gives you a great indicator of how some people are approaching their therapies.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, well, it's all light and breezy, and I just want to know if I was Nefertiti in a past life. Oh, how exciting, you know. And but then suddenly, you know, it gets into the meat and potatoes of it, and so bang, you know, we're going to the core of it. I mean, which is the whole idea, and that's where what we were saying earlier before about if there are souls who are really serious about resolving and closing off, well, then they're going to be drawn to you more.
That's actually one of my goals. I don't want to work with people anymore, you know, who just want to do it for the sake of it or to try it out what it's like. But I really want people who are ready to change their lives.
Yes.
And then it's easy. Once they make that decision, then it's going to be easy. But they have to make the decision first. And I want to attract those people, right?
So with that, you know, when it comes to your webpage and advertising, I think that's important for you to, you know, to put that in your synopsis and saying that, okay, the way I like to approach my clients is if, you know, if you're ready to resolve, if you're ready to release, if you're ready to face, you know, the major issues in your life, if you're ready to, you know, put the stuff down, I'm your person.
Ah, well expressed. Thank you very much. I'm going to put that in. Right.
That sifts out all the airy fairies. You know, and so you've got to be. Look, I'm not judging the airy fairies. They're what they are, and that. But you know, you are serious about wanting to serve and helping people be gods. And but you're also highly qualified to be able to take them through these journeys and help them to realize, but not just that one incident. It's more about having to help see them through, because as you're aware, you know, this just activates a lot of stuff that might need, you know, a few more sessions or a little bit of what's the word? When someone referral, so you might refer that person on to someone else to take it to the next step, you see.
Yeah.
And so that's important too. But anyway, that presents itself as it does. But you know, in the meantime, I got your father here, and so he suddenly presents here. Okay, what do you got to say? Because he's obviously listening to what I'm saying here, and Allah, did your father wear glasses and he would take them off when he was thinking about something?
Yeah.
So I get this picture of him sitting like, well, sort of like this, you see.
I have to show you something. Hang on a second about my parents, right? Look at this picture. Can you see it?
Yep.
Those are my parents before I was born, when they were very, very young and beautiful and fresh, so to speak, right? And it was an interesting situation because I enlarged that from a black and white photograph. And I had been leafing through a photo album that was before Christmas or so, you know, and I had given that to my mom after my dad had died. And suddenly this photo really, it almost jumped into my face, right? And it was really lighting up. So my idea was somebody, and probably it was him, who had directed me to that photo, because, you know, I'd always had a sort of derogatory opinion about the genes of my parents, right? My parents didn't give me good genes, but this photo is exactly the opposite. And that's exactly what I want to remember my parents of. That's the ideal image of my parents that I have. And I was really, really grateful when I saw that, and I was so happy. And yeah, but I think that must have been directed, right?
You know, that's interesting, because that fits in very much with what I was just talking about, the many layers of every experience.
Yeah.
Therefore, here for so long, you carried the idea about your parents not giving you good genetic material. And therefore, because of that, you allowed yourself to be influenced by the idea of that, the story of that, therefore the vibration of that, the energy of that. And then you got to a place where you realize that, no, I don't need to hold on to that story anymore. And so bang, it's like your dad goes, here, you know, you were wrong. You know, and so,
what's he saying?
oh, he's just laughing. He says, that was very human of you thinking that. But of course, you know, remember, what you see in a situation is an indicator of what you see within yourself. And therefore, so you carried your own, as this is coming from Dad, he said you carried your own judgment on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and you blamed us. And so, and then you got to a place in your evolution where you realize that I have no right to make that level of judgment. And therefore, the moment you did that, suddenly you saw that, in fact, oh, how beautiful and how wonderful and how brilliant and how fortunate I am.
Yeah.
You know, and therefore, you know, I mean, your dad's just chuckling away here, you know, he's got no emotional reaction or whatever. But, you know, it just goes to show, he says, you know, when you're ready to see, you see. And when you don't, well, that's not because it's not there, but because you're not there. You haven't got to that place where you're able to see that. And he says, if you look at all the development you've done and the work you've done with people and on yourself, obviously, then that's what you've done. You've had to evolve to be able to see what's always there. And you can't make yourself see something. You can't force yourself to see it. You have to grow into that vision. And therefore, all the efforts that you've put and the way you've developed is allowing you to just, you know, it's like those eye shields that you humans wear to see, you know. But imagine if you had like several on, and it would just distort your vision, you see. So it's like you take it off, 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 take it off. Yeah. And so that's what you've done. You've taken off the old ways of seeing, and now you're seen, as I would say, as God. And in seeing life as God, etc., etc., then you begin to see all experiences as God too. So when you look at that picture of your parents, what you see is beauty, freshness, energy, aliveness, you know, happiness, joy, beauty. You know, your mom was a beautiful woman. Your dad was a stunning looking man. You know, and this is, he's going like, thank you, Tabaash. And he laughs and goes, what do you mean was?
Is he still so vain like he used to be? In spirit, it's so interesting.
I mean, I'm going to say it's part of his character in human terms. And spirit, of course, you don't have human emotions and things like that. But he's using his vanity as a way of joking, as a way of, you know, projecting. Yeah, well, yeah, of course. I was a handsome man. I was tall, I had big shoulders, I had a big, you know. And so this is where I'm like, I mean, I'm there, I'm a man, you know.
But it's wonderful to remember him like that. And also, you know, I feel he's so close to me, and my parents are so close to me now, like they never were when they were alive. So it is absolutely, it's a gift, right? Have a connection to them in spirit, and I just love them.
That's because of you, not because of them. They've always been there.
Yes.
You know, and then this is it. You know, it's not that they've come closer. It's that you've expanded. So in your expanding of your awareness, then you know everything becomes available. And so getting back to what we were saying earlier, you know, now you have greater awareness. Now you're making everything available to you. You know, and that's why you should never say what is available to me. I would say instead just go, well, everything's available to me. Yeah. But today, this is what I can access. And today, this is what's necessary. You know, and so that's a better way of seeing it, because it changes the journey. You know, when people go, I wonder what's out there for me, what's available to me. Well, then you're getting locked into human emotions and doubts and things of that nature. Whereas if you go, well, hey, everything's available to me. And that's
what I've been trying to teach people. I've just written a blog about being a creator. You know what Dolores said, that you create your fate and you can create every day. And that's also what I tell my clients. I mean, you decide right in the morning, the moment you get up, you decide what your day is going to be like. And I've also been using things that you and Blair have written in your books. You know, I'm activating my, I don't know, athletic self and my meditation self and my therapist self and things like that. But people are usually not aware of the power they have. So they have to be really taught the most simple things, so to speak. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you one more thing, you know, about the being God thing. I mean, now the concept of being God has become more natural to me. But here, especially in Austria, we are so kind of, the God concept is rather seen a little bit with a negative connotation because of the Catholic Church, right? So, and many people don't want to have to do anything with God. So, and I want to help people become more God. So I think I have to rephrase it in a way that the word God is not used that much. What do you think about that?
I do it myself at times. I know with some clients, you know, if they hear the G word, then they're automatically going to go like this, because whatever reasons. So I just use higher consciousness or universal energy or the light or whatever, you know. And so you know, it's entirely up to you. And obviously, you know, you read the energy and see what people are, you know, aligned to. But I mean, the unfortunate thing about people is that they take the word God and they automatically relate it to religions, you know.
Yeah, and because it's been used like that. I mean, it has to be reframed, actually. It needs reframing. The word God needs reframing, absolutely.
But as I've taught, you know, the word God is just a formula. G plus O plus D equals life. You know? And that's really what it's all about. And of course, in those, each letter, each vibration, each formula is a power. You know, so people do say the word God. If you're doing it from a higher perspective, then it's extraordinary what you can align to. But if bringing it from an emotional perspective through dogma and rituals and conditioning, well, then of course you're going to go like this. You know, and suddenly think it's all about Jesus stuff and all that sort of thing. But you know, it's just about life. But yeah, using the word higher energy or higher consciousness, or you know, or what you could do is you could say to people, you know, if you think about the source or higher consciousness, you know, if you were to choose a word for what that represents, what would you choose? They would say something, and then you would use that word, and therefore they relate to that. Oh, and so, I mean, it might be funny because some people, I've done this myself, and some people, you know, I say, instead of the word God, what word would you like me to use? And the person said Hank.
Hank?
They just chose Hank. I think I'll use Hank. You know, I like to talk to Hank. You know, rather than God, I'll talk to Hank. You know, and this is what Hank wants you to do, and this is, you know. But that's what that person related to. And they weren't making jest of it. They were. It's like, well, I feel comfortable with that, because I suppose for them it's they're personifying the energy. And I think the thing that, you know, people try to do is they try to humanize the concept of God, which is impossible, because you can't humanize something that's not human.
Yeah, but didn't the church try to do that? You know, by hanging up pictures with an old man with a beard. I mean, it's connected with a male, of course, male, and it's not male. I mean, sometimes I say to myself, I'm the goddess, and that I'm God, but I'm the goddess.
Yeah, yeah.
That also appeals a little bit more to me. Of course, I've gotten used to that. I'm being God, but still, I think there has been so much abuse.
Agree. But that was to do with control and the way
Yeah.
of subjugating the role of women in life.
Yeah.
And so therefore using the patriarchal sort of vibration. But I think the best word is probably source.
Source, yes.
Source power, source energy is
Yeah.
a way of looking at it, basically. So you want to ask me more questions?
Yes. I have discovered there might be one old belief inside me, and that seems to be I don't deserve, I'm not worthy enough to have a fully happy life. And I would like to get rid of that. What do you think?
Okay. The thought that came up straight away when you started talking about it is judgment from others.
Okay.
And therefore now, remember what I've said from the past about when you want to change something, you don't look at it like it's wrong. You don't look at it as I have to get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's to realize, what I've said last year, I'm going to let this walk with me, but I have to give it the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk to that judgmental part of you and you say, okay, look, you're here and I don't like the fact that you're here, but you just walk with me, but I'm going to tell you every day, here are the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to look at your dad stepping in here as well. And interesting. It's almost there's a part of you when you were young that didn't want to tap into his disapproval. And so there was a part of you that felt, if I did that wrong, then he would judge me, or wouldn't think me.
Yeah, that happened all the time.
Yeah. So I'm getting emotional. When that happens, that strikes the note. So that would probably be the core of that.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad says, I would be the first to admit I was a bully.
Oh, yes, he was.
and he's very much asking your forgiveness about that. And he said he made you afraid of being yourself, and he made you nervous about your qualities and your capabilities, etc.
I think he consciously tried to push me down because I think I was a very strong light as a small child. I remember that, right? Because my mom said, sometimes she said to me, when you were small and, I had to do something and I was afraid of doing it, I sent you there. So obviously I seem to be stronger than her in a certain respect. And I can understand that my dad, not my mom, but my dad, he tried to put me down because he was afraid of my light, right?
Yeah, your dad had problem with powerful women.
Mm-hmm.
And any strong woman who would stand up to him or shine her light or move forward, an issue with that. So he had to find some way of making them small or trying to keep them in a subjugated role.
Yes.
And okay, well, that stems from his own mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of mitigating factors that come into this. And so for this situation, it's not about I got to work on whether I deserve things or not. It's more of a matter of looking at what you have achieved. It's more about recognition. The recognition of your qualities and your capabilities and your achievements through your life is the way to make peace with this.
Yes.
So rather than work on the judgment and all that sort of stuff, it's just that was just how I got there, and yet it's also driven me. It's made you stronger and more focused. A bit like I'll show you off, and so therefore it's shaking your energies up, and you can very much hold your own. And it's interesting saying this because one of the things I'm just picking up from your dad is, even though he achieved and succeeded in his life, it was like he only took himself so far.
Yes.
And I think he feels that he let himself down, and because he was lazy about stuff, or he was frightened. He told me
afraid. He was afraid of certain stuff. He could have gone on in his career. He could have made a lot of his career.
Oh, totally,
because he was afraid, right?
Yeah. And two reasons for his fear. He was afraid of, because he didn't like to be felt that he was a fool, so he didn't like to fail. And so he'd take himself so far and then stop. But he always knew there was more. And yet the thing is, he realizes now, well, I could have just taken little step like that, rather than take a big leap.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other fear was that, once I get there, am I a fraud? Can I actually really do this? And all that sort of stuff. He put a lot of pressure on himself, your dad, in his life. And
it was why he was so angry.
Yeah,
very often. Very angry.
Yeah. Well, of course, all that's finished now. And now, he's there to encourage you in your beautiful qualities and your strengths. And he's 100%.
I can feel that, and I'm grateful for that.
And that's why he's walking with you. And for you, as I said to you before, and he's, also agreeing with this, is that there is nothing to resolve. And even this situation, I don't believe, old beliefs don't deserve, all that stuff. Well, that's just, an old story. That it's there, and all you have to do is realize, well, in fact, that has no bearing on my life anymore, because in fact I've done the total opposite of that. Yeah, but the thing is too, and this is something that you find as you develop more, achieve more, grow more, succeed more, etc., 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 you start to move away from any emotions around it. It's like you get into a great level of success, and you almost feel like a blank feeling. It's like when someone said to Blair the other day, from Australia, oh, that was such a great seminar, I'm so glad I went, but he just didn't feel anything. It was like, oh, well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure that you were there, and all that sort of stuff. But he doesn't feel it. It's like he doesn't sit there and feel, oh, what a great session it was, And when people succeed, unless you've got a big ego, you don't go around feeling your success or feeling what you deserve, or you just know. Yeah, I'm a god.
And I always say thank you very much. Thank you for having that great session. Thank you for making this possible to the client. That's what I feel. I feel grateful, right? Not proud or something. No.
Yeah. So you're just doing your job.
Yeah.
But if you have, and I've talked to people, famous people, who've got this constant need to be, what's the word, adulation, to be, given adulation, and it's like they feel they have to be propped up by how wonderful they are, how wonderful people think they are, and so on and so forth, you see. And yet, that just indicates a base level of total insecurity. And a lot of famous people are like that, who are performers. They're intrinsically shy and insecure people.
Yeah.
And yet when they go on stage and they just bring in another part of themselves, that's not. And that's why when you have people who have had high success and then suddenly they've retired from it or whatever like that, they don't know what to do with themselves. And I'm just saying this as I'm looking at you, because I think as you keep progressing, as the years unfold, you're just going to keep moving into more and more and more and more of your power.
Yeah.
And you'll still be well active in your 90s.
Oh, thank you. Well, as I said to you once before, I want to stop the aging process, right? I want to stop that. I want to, to put it back. And I feel it's working. I am, meanwhile, I'm so convinced of it. I feel it's working. I don't feel like I'm this old. I don't even mention my age anymore, right? I feel young. I feel youthful. I feel dynamic. I feel agile. I feel full of joy. I just feel great. Right? It's not the same every day, but it's getting more and more and more, right?
But see, what you're doing is you're moving into the natural state. So look at it like I want to stop. Look at it. I have stopped.
I have stopped. Yes.
Yeah. Because it's just an enzyme thing in your physiology.
Yeah.
So that when you begin to shut off that aging enzyme, and then you begin to bring the youth enzyme through your system, then what you find is a natural state of consciousness. And, there was a time where that just didn't occur at all. And so basically everyone, looked about 30. and that was just the natural energy, the natural vibration.
Yeah.
And but also too, the density of energy on this planet created by people, it hasn't helped. But also the way humans, getting back to the word unnatural, they started to get involved in unnatural ways of thinking, feeling, eating, living, da 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 da. So of course that creates decay.
Yeah.
And so, but when you move into totally what's natural, then that changes. In fact, a good thing to do daily, and this helps with the reversal aging, is to say to yourself, all right, today what's natural to me? Today what's natural to my mind, my body, and my spirit? And you will be given some simple indicator. And then it's just living that energy or bringing that little thread of energy through. And of course, like anything, the more that you are consistent with those practices, the more you've trained up your physiology. And
also, with the practices, the yoga practices I'm doing now, they're helping me really a lot, because I've learned to restrain myself about from eating too much, and I don't eat too late now, and I wait for 4 hours, because you have to have an empty stomach until you can do the practice. But I think it pushes me forward a lot, and I'm also quite thankful that I'm putting that through, right?
Yeah, you change the dynamics of your relationship with energy. And therefore, you're able to observe your mind, your body, your spirit as just simply forms of energy in those states of consciousness. So the disciplines that you're establishing are now creating a really productive collaboration of all those energies. Okay, to begin with, it's rather like they have to get used to that, and it's like meeting the same person but on new ground.
Yes.
And it's like, and it's all a bit awkward, but it's still exciting. And then little by little, you all realize, hey, we're all rowing in the same boat here. Therefore, and we all have our part to play. But our destination is the same destination, basically. See, so I just get suddenly all this blue coming into the copper as well. And so, as much as receptivity, it's good to communicate. So it's very much about, okay, mind, body, spirit. Here's the rules for the day. Here's the structure for today. Here's the story for the day. To be able to do that is really important. And it's always got to be the affirmative. This is what is.
Yes.
So that seems to be quite important. This name's come up before. Volta.
No. Each time we talk, a different name is coming up. Last time it was Peter. And now it's Walter. Who's that?
Walter. V-A. He calls himself Walter.
Yeah. With W or with V?
V.
V. Walter.
Right. Walter. And I can see this big mustache on him, right? This big mustache. Okay.
Who's that?
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at you, Walter. And she's going around turning knobs and pushing levers and things like that, which is obviously a metaphor for something. And he's part of your control central. So he's helping you to control, the flow of the energy, so you don't pull through so much through you.
Okay.
And he's something to do with the channeling that I spoke of before.
Okay.
And so he says you're in a bit of a training process.
Yes.
Which is important. All right, so I'm just going to ask him, okay, I'm going to ask him, name 3 things that Conny needs to do to allow this process to, amplify, basically. See, okay. The first thing he brings up is the importance of nature to you.
Yes.
And particularly being amongst the trees.
Yes.
And he says that you just feed from the energy of it. And the silences when you're going on your walks and things, that's really essential. So that is one, and you're aware of that. Okay, what's the second one? And the second one is, again, that word elimination. So the elimination of, and he seems to be bringing food, elimination of anything that has additives in it, the elimination of anything that is not pure or not natural.
Okay.
You know, to really move into an even more natural way of eating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, look, I'm not talking about, you know, getting down to basics where you're eating turnips out of a wooden bowl, you know, and it's not like that, but just
I know what you mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, to be conscious of what's natural to you in regards to eating. And what's the third one? And straight away he shows me your meditations and the depth of them and the strength of them and the power of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll be working with you in those vibrations and energies.
Okay.
And then also you and Blair were talking before about aromas.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course aromas, you know, you must have heard of aromatherapy. You know, and of course, you know, your physiology responds to certain scents, and certain scents will relax your vibration or
Ones.
or wake you up in some way.
Yeah. Are there any special ones?
Yeah.
What about frankincense, for example?
No. I'm just getting them. I'm just getting
okay.
them. I don't know what that is. Hang on. Okay. I'm just writing them down as they give them to me.
Okay.
Shall we? Very earthy. How many more are you going to give me? 2. Which one? Oh, yeah, that was one before. Got that earlier. And the last one? Okay. Do you want to add one more? No? Okay. Quite specific. No? Well, they gave me 5, and I said, do you want to make it a full 6? A half a dozen? No? Okay. There's no particular order here. I'm just writing down as it was given to me. So these are scents which would be beneficial to you. Okay. The first one that I wrote was peppermint.
Yes.
So smell pepper.
I have it. I have peppermint oil.
Yeah, and the second one was something I'm not sure of called bergamot.
Yes, bergamot.
Yes, bergamot. Okay.
Bergamot. Yeah, with a T at the end. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then the third one was thyme.
Yes.
Yep. And then the fourth one, which I think is very appropriate, cinnamon.
Cinnamon. Yes.
Yep.
Cinnamon oil. You know, as an essential oil.
Yeah, like an.
Yeah.
And the last one was lemon.
Lemon. Yes.
Yep. So.
Interesting.
Yes, all of those perfect for your vibration at this particular point.
And should I use them all at once, or how?
No, if you use them all at once, and you just get a big, awful smell. So
yeah.
or one of the smells will overpower the other, so you'll just have that one. You see? No. So basically, it's like each day. Okay, well, what scent is natural for me just for this moment?
Yes.
And I was actually drawn earlier, before they even mentioned it, to cinnamon. So that seems to come up in your vibrations a lot. So, but anyway, just have a little bit of a play around with that.
Yes, that sounds interesting. Thank you.
and also, whilst you're doing that, then try to be conscious of, you know, the way that your whole system is responding and how it feels useful to you, and you know, because like things will clear, like peppermint will clear your mind.
Yes.
You know, and lemon.
And you mean using them during meditation?
You could do that, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And lemon will calm you. You know, so there's just, you know, just have a little bit of a play around with it.
Yes.
And have some fun with it. You want to have any more questions? And I go.
No, I think because I desperately need to go to the toilet, so I can't have any more questions.
All right.
The bladder inflammation, the bladder infection is still working. And
okay.
So I have to go more often than usual. Right?
Okay, right. Well, I'll bring Blair back and you can then dash off. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.